Okay, we're given here a bunch of angles, and we want to find the tangents and cotangents of each one. So a good first step is to graph these angles on a unit circle. So I've got a unit circle here. I'll label the common values, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. And now I want to figure out where these angles are. 2 pi over 3 is a little bit past pi over 2, so we're going to find the tangent and cotangent there. 7 pi over 6 is a little bit past pi. And 7 pi over 4 is in between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi. So those are the three angles. And to find their tangents and cotangents, I'm going to draw my triangles in and then write down the sine and cosine of each one. So for each angle, I'm going to find the sine, the cosine, and then I'll use those to find the tangent and the cotangent. So let's start with 2 pi over 3. That's over here. So I'll draw a triangle there. That's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. And I know that the sine is the long one there, so that must be root 3 over 2. Cosine, the short one, 1/2, except that's negative because the x-coordinate is negative. So for tangent, it's sine over cosine. That's just negative root 3. Cotangent is cosine over sine, so that's negative 1 over root 3, but that rationalizes to negative root 3 over 3. Next one is 7 pi over 6, so that's this angle right there. And again, that's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. 7 pi over 6, the sine is 1/2, but that's negative because the y-coordinate is negative. Cosine, the big one, is root 3 over 2, but again, that's negative because the x-coordinate is negative. Tangent, you divide those together, so sine over cosine is 1 over root 3 over 3, and it's positive because both of those are negative, so the two negatives cancel. Cotangent is cosine over sine, so that's negative root 3. Positive because they're both negative, and so the two negatives cancel. Finally, 7 pi over 4. That's this angle down here. And that's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Sine and cosine are both root 2 over 2 for 45, 45, 90 triangles. But we got to figure out which one is negative, and it's sine because the y-coordinate is negative here. We're down below the x-axis. Cosine is positive because the x-coordinate is positive. Tangent, you divide those together, and so you get negative 1. And then cotangent, you divide cosine over sine, but you still just get negative 1. So again, it's probably not worth memorizing the tangents and cotangents of those angles, but it is worth knowing the common values for the 30, 60, 90 triangles, which are for 30, 60, 90, it's 1/2 root 3 over 2. And for the 45, 45, 90 triangles, the sines and cosines will be root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. So if you remember those common values, then you can draw a triangle anywhere else in the unit circle and just figure out which of these values is the sine and which one is the cosine. And also you can figure out which one is positive and which one is negative. And then to get the tangent, you just divide the sine and the cosine together. Same for the cotangent. The only tricky part there is figuring out whether the tangent and cotangent are positive or negative, but then you just look back at whether the sine and cosine are positive or negative, and so that tells you right away whether the tangent and cotangent are positive and negative. You can also remember the mnemonic, all students take calculus, which stands for all of the values are positive. In the second quadrant, only the sine is positive. So that's why the 2 pi over 3, both tangent and cotangent were negative. In the third quadrant, tangent is positive, which means the cotangent will be as well. And in the fourth quadrant, only cosine is positive, which means the tangents will be negative. So there are lots of different ways to remember that. Choose which one works for you. And we'll come back later with more lectures on trigonometry at educator.com.